very quick introduction to myself, just because often you listen to people talk and you don't know who they are, and you're figuring out who is this strange person standing on a stage talking to me at a BFSI conference on a Saturday afternoon. So I'm Ben Henshall. I've been working at Red Hat for 10.5 years, almost 11 years, which is the second longest relationship I've ever had in my life. The first is with my wife, and actually my 3 monkeys. They're 12 and 13, 12 and 10. But that said, I have the privilege of traveling across Asia Pacific. So I'm based in Singapore, but I'm originally from Australia. I'm very sorry about that. India should be number 1. I think you are number 1 in cricket for test matches, maybe not World Cup, but let's not talk about that. But I really do have the privilege of traveling across Asia Pacific and speaking to gentlemen and ladies, just as yourself, way above my pay grade, understanding some of the issues and challenges you have, and how Red Hat is helping to help you transform and accelerate that transformation. So I'm going to give you a very short lightning talk. Lightning talks are generally 5 minutes, but I'm going to do it in 15 or less. I'll try and do 12. Just about 4 lessons that we have observed about helping you change and transform. Because I think transformation is really a key word in this. First is, change is hard. It really is very, very difficult. And as I say, I travel across this very diverse part of Asia Pacific, from very mature markets like Japan and Australia to very nascent markets in parts of ASEAN, and then India's in this magical state of major transition. But change is very, very hard. The second is, innovation is the defining word of the 21st century. Not just for corporations, but for governments and national and countries as well. India is in a global state of competition. And the biggest competition you have is China. I go to China a lot. China is in execution mode, major execution mode. So India, I hear a lot of talk about the nation transitioning and helping financial inclusion, for instance. So innovation is a core capability. It's how you execute on that. The third is competition for sustainable talent. Gosh, Red Hat has a challenge ourselves trying to hire excellent, outstanding, critical thinking people. You have the same problem. How do you hire the right people and keep them and sustain that talent? The fourth is open source is teaching us very, very important lessons. And it's actually quite nice having Susa come and talk about open source to lead this in. So the first thing I just want to highlight on these 4 aspects. The role of the CIO has changed from being a cost center, cost savings model to being a growth model. So this data, 61%, this is a Gartner survey out of Asia Pacific. 61% of CIOs are focusing on growth, not cost savings. 68% of them are focusing on building an API-centric ecosystem. So they're either implementing it or they're planning on doing it this financial year. And I think this from HDFC Bank on the front of their annual report last year says it all. And they quote, "The future is resplendent with, it's a resplendent future ahead teeming with infinite possibilities." Now for a bank to say that on their annual report is fascinating. Do you think they're excited about the future? You just look at their profitability, you bet they are. The second is another bank out of Singapore, which is known as a great digital bank, is DBS Bank. Now, if I can just draw your attention, this is out of their current strategy. If I can point you to just this section at the top here. So there's value creation and importance. Top right, digital disruption and changing consumer behaviour. Digital is all over them. And here is also another screenshot from how they're measuring themselves, publicly measuring themselves in their KPIs. Digital is front and centre, and innovation, startup mentality is in their DNA. And I think this really kind of also typifies what I'm seeing across Asia Pacific and globally. What you're looking there on the left is Rajay Ray. He is the digital ninja of Macquarie Bank in Australia. No branches, they're mainly an investment bank. They operate in about 50 countries. And he is saying on stage at a Gartner event in Sydney, uses a lot of Red Hat technology, we're partnering with them. He says, our competition is not the next bank, it's the next app. And there was a guy who who's part of digital for Siam Commercial Bank in Thailand. I was at an event in Hong Kong earlier this year, and he said, it's destination deconstruction for consumers. The average consumer goes to your mobile bank app, he said, well, this is actually HSBC guy Andrew Connell, he said, about 5 times a month. That's what's distracting you. If you don't have engagement with the customer through, for instance, mobile, and it's only going 4 times a month, then you're being disintermediated. So this is the mantra of Macquarie Bank. The next app is my competition. It's not the next bank. you've got there Jose Gonzalez, CEO and president of BBVA Bank, one of the largest, if not the largest bank in Spain. Big global bank in the Latin America, in the Latino sort of market segments in South America and Spain. He says, we're becoming a software company. He's standing there, sitting there on stage at the Mobile World Congress. Now, he's a pretty old chap. He's saying, I'm actually going to be a software company that happens to have a banking license. It's the same quote as Jamie Dunn from JPMC. And here's where, for instance, Deutsche Bank is thinking about how they're trying to change the role of IT from being a cost savings model to being a growth focused model. And Pat Healy, the CTO, this is his strategy. Build out a commoditized infrastructure, standardize that, then you can automate it, then you can actually build the next generation applications and services for customer engagement. Again, all these customers that I'm showing you are great, prolific users of Red Hat, and there's hours literally of YouTube video content, which I've included at the back, that you can listen to these guys and girls talk about how they're making that transition, that hard transition. But what's our barriers to execution? So in the 70s, ladies and gentlemen, we agree, IT was insourced, particularly with state-owned enterprises. And then in the 1990s, we had the Boston consulting groups, the McKinseys, and they would say, outsource IT, it's not a core competency, you're a bank. Yes? Yeah. That worked. It was all about cost savings and project risk. But now, because we want to engage, and millennials don't care about brand, they just care about experience, IT is a critical enabler for executing. And my observation in coming to India for the past 4 years is that sometimes we're still in that mode of project delivery, not in building a capability for sustainable change. And this is where Red Hat talks about the blend model. So the blender is you chuck everything in together, you blend it, and you don't know who's who, and you drink it. And this is where you have joint business outcomes between your suppliers, your IT vendors, and your IT delivery and business arm. And this is what we call breaking down the silos. So you have different departments and your suppliers, your systems integrators who own a product. Now I had this great little metaphor. Our banking product is like our children. Hands up if you've got children. Okay, we've all got children. What do we want as adults for our children, as parents for our children? We want to know their health, their grades at school, we want to know how they're performing, we want to know if they've got good friends, and we want to know if we want them to grow up to be productive adults like us, right? If you find out 12 months later that your child has cancer, is that a problem? Of course it is. If you find out 6 months later that your child is failing at school, is that a problem? Yet, the role that IT has had in the past is it's been siloed and bifurcated from the business because it's been outsourced, and the feedback cycles are too slow. So if the product doesn't deliver the outcome that you need it to, and it takes 6 months to find that out, and then it takes another 6 months for a change request to go through, for that change to be made that you hope will fix it, that's a problem. This is what the digital native banks and the DBSs and the Macquarie banks of this world are changing the way that they work. Change is hard. Change is really hard. And in essence, where Red Hat's coming from is we are trying to help you on that path move on that blue line from the left up and to the right. That is, we're trying to work with you to engender those digital transformation execution capabilities. This is what we call the maturity model. Now, it's not scientific, it's not from a Gartner or McKinsey or one of those analyst firms, but this is just to convey that as you engender these digital execution capabilities on the left, on the vertical axis, you improve the time to delivery and change. And that is about effectively mastering the art of software development, testing and delivery with the business over and over and over and over and faster and faster. And as you master that, then you improve your DevOps maturity. You improve quality and security of your products and services. You improve the culture of innovation and change and experimentation and business partner interoperability. So, the end objective that Red Hat's coming from is trying to help you as institutions become a programmable bank, a digital native. Because software, like the children analogy, is not static. It's constantly changing because it is the prime mode by which we deliver financial products and services. So there's three core things that are needed from our perspective to make those change. First is we need a next generation architecture. Mainframes are not going to get you there. Unix systems are not going to get you there. The second we've heard a lot of talk about is cloud. Cloud is all about agile, on-demand, scale out, pay as you go. Now that requires definitively different set of application and data architectures. A big fat Oracle database is not going to get you there. It's an awesome bit of technology. A mainframe is a beautiful engineered system, but it is not sustainable or suitable for the next generation application architectures that we require. Just think about the mobile phone and the amount of data and integration points and the amount of hits that go into that thing. That is fundamentally different from having a classic three-tiered architecture, which is where microservices is coming in. And then the third is around how to actually master the art of software development, test and delivery along with the business, and that's DevOps. So why open source and why Red Hat? Well, as my assistant person talked about previously, there's lots of projects. Do you know there's over 1.5 million open source projects in the world today? That's why the government of India is promoting open source. It's now all the proprietary vendors are coming across and going, oh gosh, we should do open source because you just can't compete with that level of innovation. But Red Hat's been doing this since 1996. We are one of the only publicly listed companies that are profitable, pure open source, and have done this for over 25 years or so. Doing open source is hard. It really is hard. You can download the bits and give it a crack. But running it in your enterprise at scale, where you are doing the plumbing yourself, that is hard. If you can do a job better in open source than us, go for it. Red Hat in India has several hundred engineers in Pune and Bangalore. We have thousands of engineers across the globe. We have over 12,500 employees, of which a large portion are engineers, contributing upstream, managing, security, testing, all that boring stuff that you don't want to focus on. You want to focus on the app, get the data out, get the next app out. But the point is, how do you tap into that gorgeousness of open source, which is cloud-native next-generation architectures and development practices? And this is where Red Hat bridges that divide. And this is my sort of personal observation. I guess it's maybe not bona fide by Red Hat, but I have a lot of empathy and feel really sorry for IT managers, CIOs, executives who are sitting in customer land, as we call it, trying to make head and tail about where do I build my architecture, what technologies do I pick, and how do I ingest them within my existing organizational structures with my partners so that I can reduce risk, get fast time to value, and restructure for innovation. And trying to select products is hard, and trying to put them in is really difficult. And I'd say that really where many institutions in Eastern cultures are at is still doing what we call the traditional get the requirements, do the testing, get an RFP out, and then go and select, and then outsource to a third party to go and implement. That is high risk, long lead times, and for every dollar that's invested, maybe 50 cents gets back. That is anti-agile procurement. It's the anti-pattern of agile, right? How about we work with you to engender and test software across these principles of APIs, microservices, Linux containers, cloud, CI/CD, DevOps. Look at the effect it has on your people, process and technology, and your policies, and make those iterative changes. And this is what we call agile procurement, outcomes-based. This is lowering risk and getting faster time to outcome. And so this is why Red Hat's introduced what we call open innovation labs. And this is a way where we come on site, we help you do a pilot, a small cut-down MVP, minimal viable product pilot, to use that latest technology and work with your team to get an outcome so that you can surface out all the bottlenecks and gremlins that happen with your people, your process, and your technology. Because, ladies and gentlemen, when you buy technology in a silo, and you might have done very extensive technical testing on it to see it fits all these functional requirements, when you put it into your architecture, it doesn't work as well as you had hoped because you are testing it within a siloed system and you haven't tested it in context of the flow of work, which is the flow of the software development, test, delivery, feedback process. This is the whole thing about DevOps. It's about breaking down those silos with business and all that's, that supply chain of software development. So this is what Labs is trying to help you fix. And here we've got an example with Heritage Bank in Australia. They've done 2 labs with us. The first is they've done loan origination modernisation. They went from processing 4 loans a week, which is terrible, to tripling to quadrupling that, using modernising their loan origination system. And they've just finished off one with us with interbank real-time transfer, which is a real complicated project. But they've fundamentally changed the way they work. They are not going back. You can listen to Peter Locke, and you can watch him on our website. He says, we are not going back to this previous way of working and using technology. So so the question might be, okay, Red Hat, what do you do? How do we do this? So we've got a process where we do some pre-work, we do a discovery with you, then we set up what an MVP is, we come on site, we work with you, and then we set up our sprints and then go and demonstrate that back to the business and kickstart your process of change. But it's hard work. It's really, really hard work. Interestingly, we're just about to finish a labs engagement with a financial institution in Mumbai. We've been on their side for 6 weeks. The other part, I'm talking about sustainable innovation and talent, and I'm almost done, ladies and gentlemen, is brand association and engagement. Employee engagement, brand association. What you're seeing here is you're seeing Bank of New Zealand, Macquarie Bank, Bank of Santander, Deutsche Bank. They're all standing on stage at a Red Hat event. Now, it doesn't have to be a Red Hat event, but I'm talking about because this is Red Hat Talk, Red Hat event. They're all standing on stage talking about what they're doing in transforming the way they work, using cutting-edge technology and delivering outcomes. Now, you might say, why would they do that? Because it's kind of opening themselves up to the competition. But they're doing it because they want to get a brand that they are a cutting-edge digital native bank. Because word gets out. And you want to hire the best people. You want to hire the cool kids out of college. You want to hire the best technicians to come and work for you. And if your brand as a financial institution is not cutting-edge and digital, then they're not going to come and work for you. This is what the telcos are struggling with right now. The tech guys don't want to work for a telco because they're stodgy, slow, boring, silo. So this is where they're trying to get a cut-through brand differentiation. And interestingly, organisations that do DevOps really well, there's great empirical data that shows you have better staff productivity and staff engagement. Now, the Great DevOps Report, worth reading, 2016, their report shows that staff are more likely, 2.2 times more likely to recommend to their constituency or their associates to come and work for their employer. Now, in the war of talent, this is one of Red Hat's problems. This is, something that can help you get the best guys and girls into your group. I'll close with this. One of the reasons why open source and Red Hat is very well placed to help you transform, along with labs and the fact that we've been doing this a long time, is that next generation IT architectures, application infrastructure architectures, which are cloud native, the open source is built in the cloud, by the cloud, for the cloud. Now, what do I mean by that? It's called GitHub. Open source does not tolerate bloatware. It does not tolerate bad code. It does not tolerate, needing a 4 gig installer just to install a 4 gig application server, particularly with your networks at times. This is the reason why open source is the first call to put in your next generation architectures. The question is, do you want to focus on plumbing and doing what we do, or do you want to focus on getting your code out the door and improve that delivery, reduce risk, restructure for innovation? And this is where Red Hat is moving from being purely a product company with open source to helping businesses transform and start looking like Silicon Valley, so to speak. All right. With that, I have built this deck so that you can take it away with you. And if you want to go away and just continue to do some more learning, there's lots of links to some YouTube talks from financial institutions just telling their story at Red Hat events about how they're transitioning, lessons they learned, and use cases that they're doing this with. And one of the beautiful things about it is that these banks and institutions are coming back year after year. They're not one-hit wonders. These are Deutsche Bank, Barclays Bank, BBVA Bank, Santander Bank, Macquarie Bank. They're coming back year after year telling their story of transformation. So you can see it from 2015, 16, 17 and 18. So with that, I will let you go and get some lunch. Thank you very much.